Hi, my friends. Welcome to week 30 of second grade science. How are we doing? Are we all doing great? So the next two videos that you guys will have, week 30 and week 31, is going to be the last of our second grade science curriculum. And we're going to talk about water. But before we move on to water, let's do a quick review of what we've done for the last several weeks. Now, I love Mystery Science. You guys know. I think Doug is great. And I think we have a really fun time watching those videos and doing his activities. I think it's really fun to do as a class. I'm not sure that it's more fun to do it at home. I think it's more fun to do it in class. But I'm really proud of you guys for taking on those activities, kind of experiments, and making the best of it. In fact, I was going to compliment you guys. So last week we talked about materials. Remember, the last videos for Mystery Science have all been about different materials. We talked about what is good melting material and what's not. We've talked about materials that keep us warm. We talked about materials that can soak up sweat, that can give us shade. Think about all the materials that we've talked about. So last week we talked a little bit about building and some of the building materials. We used paper to see if we could build a paper house. How did it go? So what I wanted to say is when we're doing those experiments and those activities at home, sometimes we don't have exactly the right supplies that we needed. I wanted to compliment a few of you didn't have note cards. And that was okay. You still made it work. Instead of just saying, oh, I can't do it, I don't have the right materials, I can't do it. You used your science mind, your problem-solving mind, and you went ahead and you did it. So I saw one that used sticky notes, one that just used regular paper and cut it up. Now, think about it for a second with me. If you were just using regular paper, do you think it would have been easy to do, to put the heavy book on top of it? Do you think it would have crushed? It did crush. But you know what they did instead? They used something lighter to see if it could hold the weight. Because if you don't have a 3x5 card that's thick and you folded it in such a way to hold a lot of pressure, then you use something that's lighter than a heavy book. So they used a piece of paper. I think somebody used just a regular book. So good job, guys. I was seriously so proud that my first and second graders were problem solvers, especially when it comes to science. And then one other thing, it's so fun when a science experiment fails. You guys that are in my class, and I even teach sixth grade, and you guys, we have failed miserably at a couple of science experiments. Like, it didn't work at all. That's the best kind of experiment, because then what do you get to do? You get to start all over, and you get to figure out, okay, so I better not put a 20-pound book on top of a tiny little sticky note. Like, one sticky note is not going to hold. Like, one sticky note isn't going to hold my phone, or even if I fold it, it might not hold it. So you guys kind of improvised and you did some problem solving. So I'm really proud of you. This made me so proud. It's early in the week when I'm recording this, so I haven't seen a whole bunch of those paper folding or paper house results in yet, but the ones I have seen, good job. So all of those videos that we just watched over the last several weeks all had to do with material, and they were our Mystery Science activities. And so that unit has now come to an end. What we're going to move on now is we're going to talk a little bit about water, and we're going to talk about how water helps form different landforms. So different types of landforms. We're talking about the way things are shaped. Water has a big impact on how the places that we live are shaped. So I'm going to show you a video, and it's going to give you some examples and help you give a visual in your mind of what exactly that means. Be thinking about what you think I'm saying with a landform. Maybe when you look at a map and you see the different edges, or you see different shapes of how land masses, how they're formed. What does water have to do with that? So think about maybe a coastline, or a state, or a continent, mountains. How does water impact and affect the way the land we live on, its shape, and the way it looks? So let's watch our video. I'm going to tell you right now, this video is just a little bit long, so I'm going to give you a challenge. While you're watching it, right now, before we start it, I want you to reach up. I want you to reach up above your head. I want you to stretch your right hand, and I want you to wiggle it. Here, I'll be back. Wiggle it, wiggle it. I want you to do your left hand, wiggle it. Kind of stretch to the side, stretch to the side. Okay, give yourself a 5. Maybe pinch your cheeks a little bit. Light, light, light pat. Okay, focus. Give me 5, right? Our minds, eyes, ears, mouth closed, body ready. Now, it's not that long of a video, but sometimes I just want to make sure that you know that I want you to pay attention. So two quick things. One is the pictures in this, you guys, are beautiful. These landscapes that we're looking at and these landforms, the pictures are so pretty. So I want you to pick your two favorite that you saw. Maybe somewhere you've actually traveled before, something that you've seen with your own eyes before, somewhere that you'd like to see. Be looking for two that you just think are like, oh, that was so cool. And then the second thing, I want you to see if you recognize when she talks about these landforms, if you recognize them. Oh, I know what that is. Okay, those are the two things I want you to watch for.
The surface of the Earth is covered by land and water. We have special names for different kinds of natural features, or landforms, on the Earth's surface. Come explore with me the Earth's landforms. The two largest types of landforms are continents and oceans. Continents are any one of the largest land masses in the world. Traditionally, the Earth is divided into 7 continents. From largest to smallest, they are Asia, Africa, North America, South America, Antarctica, Europe, and Australia. Oceans are large areas of salt water between the continents. Although all of the oceans are connected to each other, making them one big ocean, we divide them into 5 smaller oceans that are separated by their location and the way the water in them moves. These oceans are the Arctic Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, the Indian Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, and the Southern Ocean. Oceans are huge. Together, the oceans cover about 70% of the Earth. The Pacific Ocean is both the largest and the deepest ocean. It covers 1/3 of the Earth's surface. Smaller landforms are created in a variety of ways. Erosion from wind and water can wear down the Earth. Volcanoes and shifting tectonic plates can create new land or change the shape of old land. Let's take a look now at some of the different landforms and bodies of water that cover our planet. Mountains are some of the biggest and most recognizable landforms. They have steep sides and high peaks that stand out from the land around them. Smaller, less steep landforms are called hills. Mountains are usually formed when rock layers are pushed together from opposite sides, forcing the land up in the middle. The low areas between mountains are called valleys. Mountains may also be formed by volcanic activity, when lava and other materials build up on the surface. But mountains aren't the only landforms that can be made by volcanoes. When lava flows into the sea, it can create brand new land. Sometimes, volcanoes in the ocean create islands. An island is a piece of ground that is completely surrounded by water. Islands can be big or small in any part of the world. The biggest island in the world is Greenland. Australia is bigger than Greenland, but it is so big that it is called a continent instead of an island. 2 more landforms that involve a little land and a lot of water are peninsulas and isthmuses. An isthmus is a narrow strip of land with water on both sides. connecting two larger pieces of land. A famous example is the Isthmus of Panama that connects North America to South America. A peninsula is a piece of land that has water on 3 sides, but is connected on the 4th to the mainland. Two well-known peninsulas are Italy and Florida. Coastal areas have their own types of landforms: bays, coral reefs, and lagoons are all landforms that may be found on or around the coasts. Another type of coastal landform is the estuary. An estuary is where a river meets the sea. There, the salt water from the ocean mixes with the river's fresh water, and the river spreads out, twisting and turning, wider and wider. Because of the way it spreads out, water in an estuary is generally shallow, which allows sunlight to penetrate all the way to the bottom. Rivers are important natural features themselves. They are fed by rain or melted snow. The water in rivers is called fresh water because it is not salty like water in the oceans. They begin in high ground, usually in hills or mountains, and follow gravity's pull down to lower ground. Smaller streams meet and join together, forming larger streams and rivers. These large rivers join together too, becoming larger and larger until they finally reach the ocean. Sometimes, rivers will flow into large bodies of water before they reach the ocean. A large body of water surrounded by land is called a lake. A small body of water surrounded by land is called a pond. Not all lakes and ponds get their water from rivers. Some are filled only by rainfall. Most lakes are filled with fresh water, but some lakes are salty. One famous example of a salty lake is the Great Salt Lake in Utah. Another type of landform is a plain. Plains are large areas of flat land with no hills or mountains in them. The Great Plains in the mid-United States is a good example of a large plain. The last landforms we're going to learn about today are plateaus. Plateaus are large areas of raised land that are flat on top. Plateaus may be caused by volcanic activity beneath the Earth's surface. Sometimes the pressure of the magma beneath isn't strong enough to break through the crust and create a volcano. So instead, the land is pushed upwards. Plateaus may stand all by themselves in otherwise flat land, or may sometimes be close to other plateaus. There are many more types of landforms that we didn't have time to discuss. Landforms are all around us. I hope you enjoyed learning about landforms with me. Goodbye till next time.
Okay, goodbye till next time. All right, you guys, How cool were those pictures? Did you guys recognize any of those landforms, or did you see your favorite? So hopefully you were looking to see, when I used a big word like landform, did you realize that what I was talking about were different types of landscapes, like places that we live, things that we see, the way the land was formed, and how water impacted the way it was formed. So what were some of your favorites? Right now, while we can't get out and go on a vacation, man, I saw some really cool stuff. I mean, I've never been to a glacier. Did you guys see that glacier picture? There were some really cool caves and waterfalls. I love waterfalls. If you're in my classes, you probably already know that I love waterfalls. What were some of the other ones that you saw? Maybe say it out loud. Tell me here on the computer. Say it out loud, or tell the person that you're with. Was there one that looked familiar? Did you guys see the Great Salt Lake on there? We were famous for a second, our Great Salt Lake. So when they were talking about lakes, that a lot are freshwater, but there's a couple on the earth that are filled with salt water. And we have one of them right here in the Great Salt Lake. What about lagoons? Did any of you wonder when they said lagoon? Did you look for the roller coaster or the Colossus? Wrong lagoon, huh? But what's a lagoon? And you'll see those, right? Different landforms that have to do with water. What else? I made a list while I was sitting here. Oh, what about a peninsula? So for several weeks in history, we talked about Italy and all the different things, all the different Renaissance artists that came out of Italy. And you guys probably looked on your maps of a map of Italy. Did you guys realize that that is a peninsula? Did that come to your mind really quick when she said that? Or Florida? So when you guys look at a map of the United States or even a map of the world, you guys can see those different landforms and how water impacts those. So she gave you lots of examples, lakes and ponds. Oh, wait, sorry, that's water. Glaciers, canyons, caves, waterfalls, the plains, out in the plains. What about plateaus? Have you guys seen a plateau and how volcanoes, so lava, affects that? Peninsulas, islands, valleys, hills, and mountains. We sure see a lot of mountains here, right? Mountains and valleys. And we know the shape of those and how water contributes and how it looks on those landforms. So coastline, lakes, rivers, oceans, streams, ponds. There's a lot of water. Water is so important. Water is a life force, right? We need water to survive. But did you realize that water affects the different landscapes, and the different landforms have to do directly with the amount and type of flowing water, which kind it is. So if we had a waterfall, we wouldn't have a waterfall out in the plains, right? It'd be really cool. We wouldn't have a lagoon in the desert. Maybe, possibly. Those mountain valleys, we're not going to see those in, on the coastline. That's just not the way that the landforms work. So I'm going to show you. Okay, I told you it was long, but really pretty. So maybe do like one or two more stretches. Whoa. And let's look at, I'm going to show you a couple of landform. That's the last thing we just watched. Oh, don't look at that yet. Don't look at that. Don't look. It must be right there. Nope, that's me. Hold on, I gotta find your PowerPoint. Okay, guys, let's look at our landforms. Let's just do kind of a little review on these slides at landforms. All right, so here, like we were saying, each landform has a relative body of water, and that means the type of body of water, the type of water that helps create the shape of that landform. So rivers. River is a naturally flowing water course. I gotta move myself. It's usually freshwater flowing toward an ocean, sea, lake, or another river, except in the case of the Great Salt Lake, the Dead Sea. In some cases, a river flows into the ground and becomes dry at the end of its course without reaching another body of water. So how many of you guys have ever seen a dry river or a dry lake bed? You know what that's like, right? Okay, I have got to move. You guys don't see this, but now you'll see this little black mark that I move. It gets in the way and I can't read. Isn't that pretty? Oh, look at that sunset, you guys. Okay, what makes it a river? Rivers are the most common type of body of water in mountain regions here, like in Utah, because the water from the snow has to have a way down the mountain when it melts. In places like Utah, where there isn't an ocean nearby, the river will run down the mountain into a reservoir built by people. So you guys probably see those all the time when you're driving around, those water reservoirs. Much of our landscape in Utah is made from the runoff of a river. So think about some of the drives you've been on or some of the places that you live. Whoops. You've probably seen that the landscape that we have has to do with where the river runs through it. I think that was a movie. And it helps develop that landscape. Okay, here's some landforms made by rivers. Now I'm going to move myself up again. Should be like spot Mrs. Jensen. Where am I? This side, that side. All right. There. Let's go back. So, isn't that pretty? That is so pretty. All right, a meander. Meanders are where sediment has been deposited alongside a riverbed. When the water level rose and then it dropped and it left behind a mixture of rocks, sand, and clay. If it's a V-shaped valley, did we skip a step? No? Okay, so there's a river. So you'll see a meandering landmass because the river just meanders. And then you'll see either a V or a U-shaped valley. So if you guys looked up at the mountains today, will you see some of them will be U-shaped and some of them will be V-shaped. V-shaped valleys are from the water cutting down into the land, giving it the shape of a V. And then U would be where it settles and it settled down. All right. Waterfalls are a cascade of water falling from a height formed when a river or stream flows over a precipice. That means like, whoa, or steep incline. Do you guys recognize this waterfall? You're reading, it's Adams Canyon. So that's right up the street from our school, right up at the mountain. So Adams Canyon is beautiful. It's just a quick little hike up to see that beautiful waterfall. Where is the water coming from though? You guys know. Where's it coming from? Is it reasonable to assume that there is a river leading to the waterfall higher up the mountain? Or is the water from runoff from the snow at the top of the mountain? Right? Second one. Okay, oceans. An ocean is a body of saline water, that means salty water, that composes much of a planet's hydrosphere. On Earth, an ocean is one of the major conventional divisions of the world ocean. Remember when we talked about, she talked about that, how there's 5 main oceans, or was it 7? Actually, no, it's 5 oceans, and then they're divided by continents. So these are in descending order: Pacific, that's where California is, and Hawaii, Pacific Ocean, Atlantic, Indian, Southern, and Arctic oceans. Okay, sorry you guys, the plug fell out of my computer and all of a sudden everything was dying. So let's get back into this. Okay. Okay, so oceans. So we talked about those different oceans. So they're all the world ocean, and then each of those oceans is divided by continent. So there was Pacific, Atlantic, and that's over on the East Coast for us. That's over where New York and Florida is. The Indian Ocean, the Southern Ocean, and the Arctic Ocean. So those are the 5 world oceans, or those are the 5 major oceans. Oh, isn't that pretty? Let's move myself again here. So what makes it an ocean? Ocean is a large body of salt water. Although most of the water on Earth is in the ocean, we can't use it because it has too much salt in it. Oceans have one of the most diverse populations of life. We talked about fish a couple weeks ago, right? So we know about the different life forms, or the different, all of the different things that live under the sea. Oceans play a major role in the weather on Earth and are a major part of the water cycle. All right, here's some landscapes made by oceans. Oh, isn't that cool, you guys? It's like some kind of an animal. Okay, a bay. A bay is a broad inlet of the sea where the land curves inward. See how the flow of the tide and things, how those ripples, how it comes in and it kind of cuts away. So it's made that little bay. Oh, that's pretty. The coral reef, a hard stony substance secreted by certain marine animals, as in external skeleton, typically they form in large reefs in warm seas. How many of you guys watched Finding Nemo, right? Look at all those fish. That one look familiar right there? Yeah, the coral reef is beautiful, and that's formed by the oceans. Marine terraces are formed by coastal erosion. That means where the wind and the water come in and then it erodes back into the ocean. It like goes back and disappears back in. It breaks away. And it reflects the history of the rise and fall of the sea level over time. However, marine terraces are only found along coastlines where the land is rising. In areas where the land is sinking, they are submerged or buried by younger sediments. Note the staircase shape of the land as new episodes are added and another step is seen in the staircase. So you guys, Hawaii is a place where you see this, where the land masses are still growing. A lot of that happens because of volcanic activity. Not pretty. Oh, a lagoon. Again, I do not see the Colossus there or the Jetstar or Laguna Beach, but haha. Everybody slap your knee. That was super funny. All right. A lagoon is a stretch of salt water separated from the sea by a low sea bank or coral reef. Now, a lake is a large body of water surrounded by land. We know what a lake is around here, right, you guys? Oh, isn't that beautiful? Let's move Mrs. Jensen. What makes it a lake? Lakes can be saltwater, like the ocean, or they can be freshwater, like a river. Lakes are very common in mountainous areas here in Utah. Lakes can range in size from very large to very small. You guys know, I don't know where that is exactly. I wish she would have said when she put the picture in there, but have any of you been to Idaho? That looks just like Alturas Lake, doesn't it? Or there's a couple lakes up in Idaho or in Oregon. That's exactly what it looks like. If any of you know where that lake is, if your moms and dads, if you guys know, isn't that beautiful though? Here we go. Okay, landforms made by lakes. Mountains and valleys. A large natural elevation of the Earth's surface is rising abruptly from the surrounding level. A large steep hill. Oh, let's see. Did I read that? I read it too fast, you guys. A large natural elevation of the Earth's surface rising abruptly from the surrounding level, a large steep hill. Because most lakes are fed by rivers, they are almost always found in the mountains. Oh, we're at the end of our slideshow. And you guys, that was hard for me. That was like hard reading. Did any of you read along with me? Did you struggle as well? Sometimes I get a little tongue-tied, as you know. All right, so all of those different landforms are created or changed because of water. So we talked about like the mountains and the valleys and all of those different things. So lakes, oceans, streams, ponds, they all have an impact on what those landforms look like. A couple of cool things that it talked about was how important water is as part of the water cycle. When we live here in Utah, you guys know that our water sources, our water that we use during the summer comes from the snow that is caught up in the mountains, in those valleys, in those lakes. And then the snow melts and it catches it, and then it comes down the mountain and we catch it. Well, catch it. It runs down and we hold it in our reservoirs. And so we're able to capture that water and use it for all of us that live here along the valley. Now, when you don't live like places where we have the mountains and the snowfall and the rainfall, and it packs up there so that we have water to use throughout the year, that's where they run into a lot of drought situations. So we're lucky where we live, and we get to see not only the beautiful mountains, but we get to be able to have the water resource for us. I don't know if any of you guys have ever visited the it's the Weber Basin Water. It's up on Highway 193. You guys can go up there. It's like the Water Conservancy District for this northern Utah, and they will show you a little bit about what they do once they collect that water and how they take it from being rainwater or melted snow from the rivers or from the lake and then the rivers and then melting down the mountain, and how we can use it how they treat it and make it so that it's usable for us here, right where we live. It's one thing to read about it, how other places do it or how it works, how the process works, but it's another to be able to actually go see it. So someday down the road, when you can do some field tripping or maybe just even look at their website. Maybe I'll see if if they have a website that has some information on it, I'll link that. I just think it's kind of interesting to know right here in our area where our water comes from and how important it is, not only in our landform or in our landscape, but how we use it as consumers of that water. Okay, guys, so you guys have done a really good job at learning about landforms. So we're gonna have just a little craft for you that you can make. This is what it looks like. I think I accidentally showed you. Accidentally. All right, can you guys see that? So you guys can make a little flip book. Now, I am still making this work for you one-on-one. So on your supply sheet, because we won't be working on this individually, if you want to print these out, there will be a template for each one. So I'm trying to combine it so that you'll only have to print 2 pieces of paper and you'll have those shapes on 2 pieces of paper. So what you'll do is the first one you'll do is you'll cut out the volcano. So I want you to color and cut them out, knowing that this is the end result right here. So you're going to layer them so you can see the different landforms layered on top of each other. So use some crayons, some markers, whatever coloring tools you want, and give it some personality. They're already labeled for you, but I want you to, you're going to layer them one on top of the other. So you'll cut and color and cut out your volcano, then your U-shaped canyon, and then your mountain. There's the valley right there. Now they've had a runoff into a lake right there that they drew. Now you can show over here, that didn't work. Plains that we also talked about, then ocean, and there's a little island. So each one that you color and cut out, and then you can either use tape or glue, it doesn't matter to me, but you're going to only tape or glue them at the very bottom. So you will have, volcano will go first, and then you'll run some glue or tape right here at the very bottom of canyon, and you'll put it right in the same level with volcano. So that way, volcano, you show it in the back, and then the canyon will layer over it. Then next will be mountain. Let's see how the mountain will kind of pop up right there. And then you'll have the plains. And then you'll have the ocean down at the bottom. Now, if you just glued them flat on each one, you could do that too. But what I think is fun is that you would be able to bend each one of these back. And that's why they call it a flip book, is so you can see each one individually. So you'd be able to pull the layers like canyon, mountain, plains back, and you can see, kind of watch them layer one on top of each other. So that's just a fun little activity for you guys to do. And then next week we'll have our last lesson on water. Here, let's get our landform, just my face. We'll have our last lesson on water. We'll do a really quick review of some of these things. We'll have our last recorded lesson. Week 31 will be our last science lesson. Okay. See how you guys do. I know that was a really long video. If you want to watch it again, you can go back and look at some of the really cool places and see the peninsulas and the valleys and the caves and the glaciers. It was a really pretty video. And I will see you next week.